On the eve of National Day, I was taken back home by my wealthy parents after being bound to a truth-telling system. The White Lotus fake heiress sobbed, "Now that sister is back, should I leave?" I blurted out without restraint, "Don't leave, run instead." My wealthy parents angrily said, "Do you believe we'll throw you out again?" I blurted out, "There's such a good thing, goodbye, I'm not serving you anymore." Then I chose to hand myself over to the country. The police officer pointed at 3 photos and asked me distrustfully, "Recently, a serial murder case occurred in our city. Who is the murderer among these 3 people?" I said that unexpected answer. The person across from me was shocked, but I smiled. 1. After being bound to a system that forces me to tell the truth, I have been carefully keeping my mouth shut, avoiding speaking whenever possible. There's no other way. My mouth has a mind of its own. But the fake daughter Xia Chuchu insisted on tearfully asking me, "Since sister is back, should I leave?" My mouth said, "Don't leave, run." Xia Chuchu froze for a moment, then cried even louder. Father Xia angrily shouted, "Get upstairs right now." I quickly made myself scarce, while comforting myself with the thought that honesty and integrity are traditional virtues of the Chinese nation, back in the bedroom upstairs, which was comparable to a presidential suite in a hotel. I locked the door and let out a long sigh of relief. This damn system is truly impossible to guard against. Dinner time, under the crystal chandelier, the long dining table was set with exquisite tableware. Xia Chuchu sat beside her mother, her eyes slightly red, looking pitiful. I quietly pulled out the chair farthest from them and sat down, trying to blend into the background. "Anren, eat more, you're too thin, Mrs. Xia said, signaling the servant to serve me more food. I nodded and made an sound with a nasal tone. Xia Chuchu picked up a piece of fish with her chopsticks and said in a soft, sweet voice, "Sister, this steamed fish is Chef Zhang's specialty. Try it and see if you like it." "Not good." I looked at that piece of fish, and alarm bells started ringing in my mind. "No, my dear, you could have used a declarative sentence, an exclamatory sentence, or even a parallel structure. But why did it have to be an interrogative sentence?" I wanted to say thank you, but my mouth uncontrollably blurted out, "Oh, this fish was thawed yesterday at 3 p.m. and then left at room temperature in the kitchen for over 4 hours before being steamed. It's not very fresh, you should eat it yourself." The air instantly froze. Xia Chuchu's chopsticks froze midair, her face turning red and pale in turns. Xia's mother slammed her chopsticks down, her well-maintained face covered in frost. "Xia Anren, are you deliberately trying to stir up trouble and make the whole family uneasy?" I wanted to cover my mouth, but I couldn't help saying, "She's a fake heiress, and she's been deliberately annoying me. Can't you see that? I'm done for." I lit a candle for myself in my heart. Since I returned, the Xia family has not mentioned a word about Xia Chuchu's whereabouts, and her living expenses have remained unchanged. It's clear they intend to keep her. Father Xia glared at me fiercely. "Eat." I finished this meal under Xia Chuchu's faint sobs and the icy stares of her parents. I ate very quickly, got up immediately after finishing, and said, "I'm done, take your time." Then I slipped away like greased lightning. From behind me came the sound of Mrs. Xia comforting Xia Chuchu. "Chuchu, don't mind her, she grew up in the countryside and has no manners." 2. The next day, I was enrolled in the city's prestigious elite school, in the same class as Xia Chuchu, no doubt. This was Xia Chuchu's idea. Under the guise of providing me with the best education, she actually wanted me to feel inferior and timid in comparison to her. Wearing a brand new, yet uncomfortable, designer school uniform, I was led into the classroom by the homeroom teacher. Whispers filled the room below, with varied gazes, some curious, some scrutinizing, but mostly disdainful. Xia Chuchu sat in the front row and gave me a flawless, gentle smile. I silently walked to the empty seat in the last row and continued to implement the keep quiet policy. If gestures could be used, words were avoided. If nodding or shaking the head sufficed, not a single extra word was spoken, until math class. Probably the Xia family had specifically instructed him to give me extra special attention. "Xia Anren, can you tell us how to solve this problem?" It was an extremely difficult Olympiad math problem. Not to mention a rural student like me who had never encountered such problems before. Even the top students in the class rarely got it right. I stared at the blackboard, my mind completely blank. I was about to honestly say I don't know, but my mouth opened like a floodgate, fluently reciting the problem-solving steps and the final answer. I even added a comment, actually, using the Cauchy-Schwarz inequality would be more concise. Or you could construct an auxiliary function and take the derivative. I spoke nonstop for over 10 minutes before finally stopping. The classroom was completely silent. The math teacher adjusted his thick glasses, looked at the blackboard, then at me, his eyes filled with shock and disbelief. Perfectly correct, and the reasoning is very clear. The solution is quite advanced. Xia Anren, have you encountered this type of problem before? I froze in place, my mind racing. Teacher, Would you believe me if I said I was just possessed by an alien? I also really want to know how my mouth knew about the Cauchy-Schwarz inequality. No, I replied dryly, and this time it was the truth. The looks in my classmates' eyes instantly changed, shifting from disdain to shock and doubt. Only Xia Chuchu, when she turned to look at me, had a somewhat forced smile at the corner of her mouth. As soon as the class-ending bell rang, I was the first to dash out of the classroom and hide in the restroom. Staring at my reflection in the mirror, I realized this cursed mouth of mine could not only speak the truth from the heart but also speak facts, regardless of whether I myself knew those facts or not. So, I've become a passive human search engine, and one with 100% accuracy at that. This discovery, while frightening, also stirred a faint sense of excitement within me. Perhaps this bug-like ability isn't entirely a bad thing. 3. However, the tree may prefer calm, but the wind will not cease. Xia Chuchu clearly had no intention of letting me live in peace. After school, as soon as I stepped out of the school gate, she and her little followers stopped me. Many classmates around us slowed down, ready to watch the drama unfold. Xia Chuchu put on a worried expression today. Sister, I know you just came back and want to prove yourself, but what you did in math class today really embarrassed the teacher. That question was so difficult. You must have seen the answer somewhere beforehand, right? Her voice was neither too loud nor too soft, just enough for everyone around to hear clearly. Instantly, various suspicious and knowing gazes fell upon me. I sneered inwardly, thinking, trying to spread rumors without evidence. My mouth automatically opened, and the words came out as fast as a machine gun. Aren't you the one who's embarrassed, Xia Chuchu? That handwritten physics formula cheat sheet in your desk, do you want me to find it right now and read it out loud for everyone? Xia Chuchu's face instantly changed color, and she instinctively glanced toward the classroom. I didn't stop and turned to her number one follower, a stylishly dressed girl. And you, Wang Qian, stop making a fuss here. Your basketball team boyfriend was flirting with 3 girls at the same time at 10:30 last night. The chat history is quite interesting. Do you need me to remind you of the specific content? For example, he called one of them sweetheart. Wang Qian's face instantly turned pale, and she screamed, "You're lying." I then pointed at another chubby boy. Leisha, don't laugh secretly. That precious notebook signed Chuchu in your drawer was thrown away by Xia Chuchu in the trash, and you picked it up. She not only knows about it but also finds you disgusting. The room fell into a deathly silence, followed by an even greater uproar. The named individuals turned pale, and the gazes of the surrounding classmates instantly shifted from me to them, filled with gossip and shock. Xia Chuchu trembled with rage, pointing at me. You're slandering me. I blinked innocently. Whether I'm slandering you or not, you know best. Sorry, I have things to do, so I'm leaving now. Before they could recover from the shock of the truth, I quickly squeezed through the crowd and made my escape. Although I didn't let them take advantage, I clearly realized that if I continued to speak recklessly without considering the occasion, it would inevitably lead to a major disaster. I need to find a good place for myself as soon as possible, for the storm reached its climax at the weekend banquet. The Xia family had invited an important guest, said to be a big shot in a certain field, someone Mr. Xia was desperately trying to curry favor with for his business. Before the banquet, Mr. and Mrs. Xia sternly warned me, behave yourself today, don't say anything you shouldn't. If you mess this up, just wait and see how I deal with you. I nodded repeatedly, determined to be a silent beauty tonight. The guest was a man around 50 years old, surnamed Qian. It is said that he particularly values whether his business partners have harmonious families. It was only because the Xia family found me, their long-lost biological daughter, that they caught Mr. Qian's attention. At the beginning of summer, Xia Chuchu was dressed like an exquisite doll, sitting obediently beside the guests, her words as sweet as honey. I huddled in the corner, focused intently on dealing with a lobster, trying hard to keep a low profile. The atmosphere was very harmonious. Mr. Qian praised Xia Chuchu for being sensible and well-mannered. Xia Chuchu said modestly, "Uncle Qian, you flatter me. I still have much to learn from my sister. She just returned from the countryside and has a particularly simple and honest personality." I rolled my eyes inwardly and continued munching on the lobster. For some reason, this fake heiress always seems to want to target me, never missing an opportunity to mention me even on such an important occasion. Mr. Qian, probably out of politeness, steered the conversation toward me. I heard Enron was just found. Are you adjusting well to your new life? I warned myself. Shut up, smile, nod. I lifted my head, forced what I thought was my most obedient smile, and then nodded. Oh no, that single action seemed to have triggered some kind of switch. I heard myself answer in an exceptionally clear voice, "I'm adapting. It's just that there's a fake heiress who keeps acting like a white lotus in front of me, and my parents are both acting blind and totally falling for her act." Clang, the silver spoon in Mr. Qian's hand fell into the bowl, splashing a few drops of soup onto his expensive suit. Xia's father's face turned from red to white to green, changing like a neon light. Xia's mother nearly dropped the wine glass in her hand. Xia Chuchu was also stunned. Mr. Qian's expression was extremely awkward, and he forced a faint smile. Little friend, you really know how to joke. I know that at this moment, the Xia family's plan to latch onto Mr. Qian has completely fallen through. Mr. Xia suddenly stood up, his finger trembling as he pointed at me, on the verge of exploding. I quickly picked up a napkin and wiped my mouth. Sorry, I accidentally spoke the truth. To avoid causing any of you to have a fit and for my own safety, I'll make myself disappear. As soon as I got home, I started packing. Who knows what rules these wealthy families might have. It wouldn't be good if they confined me to my room. My mouth is even more stubborn than I am, and I absolutely refuse to admit I'm wrong. And just as I had imagined, that's exactly how things turned out. By the time the Xia family returned, I had already packed my things and was sitting on the sofa watching TV. I think I should still say goodbye. It's more polite. As soon as Father Xia returned home, he smashed a vase worth over $10,000. Do you know how much effort I put into building a connection with Mr. Qian? Mother Xia also looked at me reproachfully. Anren, how could you say something like that at the banquet? You're so inconsiderate. I shrugged helplessly. Yeah. I'm inconsiderate. I was perfectly fine in the orphanage, but you insisted on bringing me back. In all these days, have you ever cared about me? If it weren't for the cooperation with Mr. Qian, you would never have come looking for me in this lifetime. Xia's father, having his thoughts exposed, was so angry he couldn't speak. He pointed at me, stammering you, for a long time without managing to say anything coherent. Xia Chuchu suppressed the delight in her eyes and put on a tearful expression. Mom, Dad, please don't be angry. If you want, just send me away. I can go explain things to Mr. Qian. Xia's mother comfortingly patted her head. Good child, you don't need to worry about this matter. See, this is the daughter the Xia family raised. Xia's mother turned her head and saw the luggage at my feet. Her anger, which had just begun to subside, flared up again. She pointed at the luggage and glared at me. What do you mean by this? Our Xia family has been treating you well. What more are you dissatisfied with? Xia Chuchu leaned into her embrace and said weakly, maybe it's better if I leave instead. If anyone is leaving, it should be her. Xia's father raised his hand and pointed at the door, shouting at me, get out of here right now. This move is exactly what I had in mind. I was overjoyed and quickly made myself scarce. Where to next? I had already made up my mind. The Municipal Public Security Bureau. Since I can't control this mouth, I'll find a place where it can be put to the best use. I'm taking this blessed mouth of mine to serve the country and contribute to the nation. 5. Standing at the solemn entrance of the Municipal Public Security Bureau, I took a deep breath. The national emblem under the sunlight gave me an inexplicable sense of reassurance. But here's the problem, my truth-telling system is a passive skill. It only activates when I'm asked a question, and I can't help but answer. I can't just go in and say, hey bro, my mouth is blessed, can I? So weird. I need to find a way to make them ask me first, and it has to be the right question. I walked into the lobby, and the young officer at the duty desk looked up. Hello, how can I help you? I quickly put on my most sincere expression. Officer, I'd like to ask about something. Go ahead, the officer said, taking out a notepad. I tried to organize my words. Well, if someone knows something that others don't, like clues about a certain case, but she can't volunteer the information, she can only speak when asked, and she can guarantee that everything she says is true, how should she report this to the police? The officer frowned. If you know something, just say it. What do you mean you can't volunteer the information? Young lady, filing a false police report is illegal. Damn, the boot failed. I was so anxious that my palms were sweating. How should I explain this? Just then, a slightly lazy yet magnetic voice chimed in. What's going on? I turned around and saw a tall, well-built young man in a black shirt walking over. He has an exceptionally striking appearance, with delicate eyebrows and eyes, fair skin, and a demeanor that hovers between elegance and roguishness. Following behind him was a middle-aged police officer with a stern expression. The officer on duty felt as if he had been granted a reprieve. Expert Gu, this female comrade says she has some clues but insists she can't speak about them voluntarily. The man referred to as Expert Gu fixed his gaze on me, his captivating peach blossom eyes looking me up and down with interest. Did you lose a game of truth or dare, or is this some new form of performance art? I took a deep breath and met his gaze. Neither. I just can't take the initiative to say what I know. But if you ask me, I can guarantee that everything I say is true. Guyabai raised an eyebrow. Oh, all right then, tell me, what am I thinking right now? My mouth immediately started moving uncontrollably. You're thinking, this girl is quite good looking, but her way of starting a conversation is too cliché, and she seems a bit nervous. Her fingers are trembling. Has she not recovered from the shock she experienced at the Xia family? The smile on Guyabai's face instantly froze. and a flicker of surprise flashed in his eyes. The middle-aged officer behind him was also clearly stunned. The air was quiet for a few seconds. Guyabai touched his chin, his eyes showing more curiosity. Interesting, he signaled to the middle-aged officer behind him. Olchin, take her to the small conference room. 6. The atmosphere in the small conference room was heavy. Guyabai and Officer Chin sat across from me. Guyabai still had that lazy demeanor, but his eyes were as sharp as an eagle's. Xia Enren, let's get straight to the point, Guyabai began. Since you claim you can answer questions and provide the truth, we're going to test that. I'm still wondering how he knew my name. Guyabai had already thrown out a question. Let's start with a simple warm-up. Tell me, how many years has Old Chin been married? Officer Chin was taken aback, not expecting the spotlight to suddenly turn on him. My mouth automatically answered, 11 years. How old is Old Chin this year? 42 years old. What did Old Chin eat this morning? Woke up late and didn't eat breakfast. When was the last time Old Chin went on a mission? 3 days ago. Officer Chin was restless. If they asked him any more questions, he'd have nothing left to hide. Guyabai, however, smiled and said, seems like it wasn't just a wild guess. All right, let's play something more exciting. He leaned forward, his gaze sharp as a torch. Have you heard about the recent serial murders in the southern part of the city? I saw it on the news, I replied cautiously. We've identified 3 suspects, Guyabai said, pulling out 3 photos from somewhere and laying them out one by one in front of me. He then asked, word by word, tell me, which one of these 3 is the murderer? Here it comes, the crucial question. Before my brain could even process the thought, the answer was already out of my mouth. The third one. Officer Chin sharply inhaled. Guyabai's pupils contracted slightly, but his tone remained steady. What is the murder weapon? Where is it? What are its characteristics? My mouth became an unfeeling machine for outputting the truth. The murder weapon is a kitchen knife, buried under the ginkgo tree in his backyard. The handle has black engine oil on it. What evidence do you have? The second victim had fibers under her fingernails that match his blue-gray plaid shirt, specifically from the right cuff. Plus, he has OCD, he washes his hands with a specific soap after each murder. The first crime scene had traces of that soap. I finished speaking in one breath, and the meeting room fell dead silent. Officer Chin was so shocked he couldn't speak. Some of these details were confidential, and some even they hadn't managed to uncover yet. Guyabai slowly stood up. All the laziness and playfulness vanished from his face, replaced by an extreme seriousness and excitement. He gave me a deep look, his eyes seeming to say, I've struck gold. He immediately issued orders to Officer Chin, his words fast and clear. Old Chin, arrange personnel immediately to secretly verify the direction she mentioned, focus on searching the backyard and wardrobe of suspect number 3, and verify the brand of soap. Quickly, Officer Chin snapped out of his daze and rushed out excitedly. Only Guyabai and I were left in the room. He walked up to me, looking down from above, but there was no trace of contempt in his eyes. Xia Enren, he said slowly, do you know what this ability of yours means? I suppose I won't be able to live an ordinary life anymore. I answered honestly. Smart, he said in a low voice. Your ability is troublesome, but also extremely useful. From today onward, you're under my supervision. I will personally report your situation to the higher-ups. He took out his phone and began typing a report, his fingers moving swiftly. I knew that this nationally treasured blade, which could only be activated passively, had finally found a field where it could truly shine, and Guyabai is my new boss now. 6. The task force acted swiftly and decisively. Based on my testimony, the police dug up the blood-stained murder weapon from the backyard of the third suspect's home, found the blue-gray shirt with a snagged cuff, and even seized his stockpile of a specific brand of soap. The chain of evidence was perfectly closed, and the serial murder case that had troubled the Municipal Bureau for days was declared solved. The news hasn't been made public yet, but internal rewards were quickly distributed. When I received that 7-figure after-tax bonus check, my hands trembled a little. I've never seen so many zeros in my life. Guyabai leaned against the desk and said coolly, What, is the young lady of the Xia family still short of this small amount of money? I rolled my eyes at him. You already know I'm the eldest daughter of the Xia family, but didn't you know I was only recently brought back? How could they possibly be willing to give me that much money? I happily planned how to spend it. First, find a more comfortable place to live, then buy a bunch of things I couldn't afford before. However, before I could celebrate moving into a new home, I was hit by an online storm. Somehow, the news of my huge prize money had leaked, although no specific reason was mentioned. The headline, "The Xia family's newly recognized daughter receives exorbitant police reward," was enough to ignite public opinion, under the guidance of Xia Chuchu and her group of friends. Public opinion quickly turned into malicious gossip like Xia Anren must have used improper means, maybe she traded something for it, and she has completely shamed the Xia family. Looking at those malicious speculations on my phone screen, I was so angry I almost crushed my new phone, and to make matters worse, I couldn't even go online to clarify things myself. It was utterly frustrating, just as I was considering whether to engage in a fierce battle with the trolls. An officially verified account named Special Strategic Advisor, Guyabai, appeared on Weibo and directly replied to the most popular rumor-spreading post. The bonus was personally approved by me, and the process is legal and compliant. The reason is that Comrade Xia Anren provided crucial leads, which helped our city recover significant losses and prevented more innocent people from being harmed. At City Ace Cyber Police, evidence against those spreading rumors in the post has been secured, and materials for filing a defamation case will be delivered shortly. As soon as the reply was posted, the entire internet was in an uproar. Holy crap, the official account is debunking the rumor. So cool, so it was to help solve the case. Salute. By the way, does anyone know which department this strategic advisor is from? I held my phone, looking at that reply, and my heart was bursting with joy. At that moment, Guyabai called, his tone as annoying as ever. In the future, just leave these small matters to your boss, me. Don't keep them bottled up. It's bad for your endocrine system. I couldn't help but smile, though I stubbornly retorted, I can handle such trivial things myself, but thanks anyway. Words are cheap. How about something more practical? Treat me to dinner tonight. I'll pick the place, he said without a hint of hesitation. My hard-earned bonus, gone just like that. 7. The case was solved, and my special value was reported by Guyabai as top secret. Soon, I was assigned to a seemingly ordinary but heavily guarded national-level security unit. A leader in his 50s, surnamed Lin, was sent from above, exuding an imposing aura without even showing anger. Mr. Lin and his guards took me to a basement. The interior was simply furnished, with only a table and 2 chairs, and a camera placed on the table. Mr. Lin flipped through the documents in his hand. Don't be nervous, young lady. I just have a few questions. After all, your ability is truly unbelievable, and we need to verify it. I nodded. I understand. In another solemn and dignified room, out of my sight, a group of people were intently watching a large screen, which displayed the scene between Mr. Lin and me. Mr. Lin adjusted his glasses, his gaze as sharp as an eagle's. First question, let's keep it simple. My guard, Xiao Zhang, where is his hometown? Before I could even process the question, my mouth automatically answered, Daliasha Village, Qinghe City, Dongshan Province, the second house from the village entrance, with an old locust tree in front. Xiao Zhang, who had been standing in the corner like a statue, swayed almost imperceptibly, his eyes filled with shock. That detail wasn't even recorded in his file with such precision. A flicker of surprise passed through Mr. Lin's eyes, but his expression remained unchanged as he continued asking, all right, then tell me, what was I doing last Wednesday at 3 p.m.? My mouth said, you were in the underground 3rd-floor conference room of the Beijing suburb No. 2 base, presiding over the progress report for the Qianlong project. You had a bit of a cold at the time and had switched the tea in your thermos to Banlangen. Mr. Lin's hand, holding the documents, froze. That meeting was top secret. Only his personal doctor knew about his cold. In the room behind the surveillance screens, there was a collective gasp. Someone exclaimed in a low voice, that's impossible, she definitely had no access to the meeting content. Mr. Lin took a deep breath and asked the most critical question, then tell me, what is the biggest technical bottleneck currently facing the Hidden Dragon deep-sea detector we are developing, and what is the real solution? Everyone behind the screen held their breath. My mouth instantly gave the answer. The bottleneck is that the existing special steel cannot withstand the extremely high water pressure and low temperatures. The solution does not lie in the material itself, but in the welding process. We need to adopt the No. 33 technology still under experimentation at the Southwest Research Institute, but the current parameters are incorrect. The key is that the cooling rate in the 3rd stage must be less than 15%, not 30%. Clatter. Mr. Lin's pen fell onto the table. Behind the surveillance screen, a gray-haired senior expert suddenly stood up, his voice trembling with excitement. Yes, exactly, that's the direction. How did she know we've been in contact with the Southwest Research Institute recently? This girl, she's incredible. Mr. Lin remained silent for a full 10 seconds before slowly rising to his feet. All the seriousness on his face melted away, replaced by disbelief and a kind of ecstatic joy, as if he had found a priceless treasure. He walked around the desk and tightly grasped my hand. Comrade Xia Anren, on behalf of the nation, I welcome you. You are practically a living strategic treasure. Just then, the basement door was pushed open, and Guyabai leaned against the doorframe with an I told you so expression. Uncle Lin, convinced now. I told you we struck gold. She'll be under my care from now on. Any objections, Mr. Lin laughed heartily and gave Guyabai's shoulder a firm pat. Good lad, you've done a great service. From now on, you'll be fully responsible for Comrade Enren's affairs. Guyabai walked over to me, raising an eyebrow smugly. Hear that? From now on, you better listen to your leader obediently. I rolled my eyes at him, but the heavy weight in my heart completely lifted. I passed this highest-level interview with flying colors. Guyabai is my direct supervisor and my only point of contact. In his words, from now on, you are a national strategic asset, under my under my full authority. My new life began just like that. 8. The first to seek me out was a leading figure from the National Biogenetics Laboratory, a white-haired, elderly academician. He was torn between two gene-editing pathways he had been deliberating over for half a year. So worried that he had lost a few more strands of hair, he cautiously asked me, Comrade Enren, I currently have two plans. Which one has a higher chance of success? I said, the second plan, because the first one would trigger uncontrollable cell mutations leading to cancer. The old academician's eyes widened like copper bells, and he immediately rushed back to the laboratory. 3 days later, he called excitedly, his voice trembling, it worked, completely correct. The problem that has troubled us for 3 years, Comrade Enren, you are truly a national treasure. I felt happy along with them. The senior academician suddenly asked, Comrade Enren, I heard you were supposed to take the college entrance exam this year. How about coming directly to our University of Science and Technology of China for university? I was stunned, suddenly remembering that I was still a high school senior. But right now, I really have no interest in going to school. That would just be a waste of time. Guyabai reached up to take the phone. Academician Zhang, this matter isn't something we can decide on our own. We need to submit a report and apply for approval from the higher-ups. All right, I'll go apply right away. Next came the experts in the aerospace field. The engine materials for the new fighter jet have always been unable to break through the limits. The chief engineer came to me with a pile of parameters as cryptic as ancient texts and asked with great anticipation, Comrade Enren, which of these solutions do you think holds the most promise? Although I couldn't understand them, my mouth did. None of them are very good, but we can combine the strengths of the third and fifth solutions, increase the temperature by 300 degrees, adopt a gradient cooling method, and reduce the cooling time by 15%. The chief engineer went to try it out, half convinced and half doubting. A month later, good news arrived. The performance of the new material far exceeded expectations, and our country's development of a new fighter jet achieved a major breakthrough. The chief engineer looked at me as if I were a deity descending from heaven. Next was an expert in the field of cryptography, who wanted me to crack a string of code. The backdoor of this encryption algorithm is hidden in the 7th line of the 3rd segment of core code. Using double-layer camouflage, the expert broke out in a cold sweat, then was overwhelmed with ecstasy. After multiple technical assists, my importance continued to grow. Countless universities that I had never even dared to dream of sent me invitations one after another, but I turned them all down. A special team codenamed Dieting was established by the higher-ups, with Guyabai as the team leader, responsible for all matters concerning me, including education, security, daily life, health, and mission coordination. My security level has also been raised to the highest tier, with dedicated vehicle convoys for travel and residences that are as secure as fortresses. I've become the secret weapon and ultimate reference answer in various expert circles. Those big shots usually seen only on television now treat me with great respect, greeting me with warm and friendly smiles. My schedule is completely packed. Today I help physicists unravel mysteries, tomorrow I guide historians toward new directions, and the day after I assist materials scientists in identifying flaws. Guyabai followed by my side, handling the snowstorm of confidentiality agreements while complaining, TSK, you're the apple of the expert's eyes now. I'm not so much a consultant as your full-time nanny. I proudly lifted my chin and said, of course. I'm an important state asset now. 9. Ever since Guyabai cleared things up for me on Weibo last time, the Xia family had been trying to contact me, but they could never reach me. It felt like an invisible hand was blocking them. Mr. Xia's business took a nosedive, and those who used to fawn over them began to keep their distance. They vaguely sensed my unusualness, yet they couldn't get close to me, who was protected by multiple layers of security, until one night, just after I had attended a highly confidential technology seminar with Guyabai, we were leaving the venue under tight security. Xia's father, somehow having gotten the news, was waiting on the only route we had to take, trying to rush over to speak with me. In the end, he was unceremoniously stopped by the security personnel. Guyabai rolled down the car window and said, President Xia, please maintain a safe distance. By the way, a friendly reminder. The data in your company's last quarterly financial report seems a bit too polished. Should I invite some friends from the tax and securities regulatory authorities for a cup of tea to discuss the details? Mr. Xia's face instantly turned pale, sweat pouring down his forehead. Without daring to say another word, he slunk away in disgrace. Watching his instantly hunched figure in the rearview mirror, I felt no emotion, only a sense of satisfaction, thinking, what goes around comes around. Did they ever imagine this day would come when they allowed Xia Chuchu to spread rumors about me back then? On the way, I couldn't help but ask Guyabai, "Hey, what exactly is your background? How do you know everything?" Guyabai, while driving, casually replied, "It's nothing, my family elders have some connections, and I just happen to have a slightly higher IQ. I earned a few doctoral degrees ahead of schedule. And the higher-ups thought I was suited to handle some unconventional problems, like you." I instantly understood. "So, you can handle anything that can't see the light of day." He was silent for a few seconds, then smiled as if surrendering. "You could say that, actually, before you returned to the Xia family, your basic information was already on my desk. After all, the Xia family still holds some influence in City A, and the higher-ups were concerned about the family being infiltrated. I just didn't expect you to be far more interesting than what was written in the files. So you've been observing me since the moment I entered the police station?" I asked. "Of course." He glanced at me, a hint of mockery in his eyes. "How else would I have been able to pick up such a treasure?" Our daily work routine basically consisted of me answering all sorts of questions from the experts, while he handled everything else. In his free time, he would take me to eat all kinds of delicious food, justifying it as replenishing energy for the nation's important assets, and then unapologetically have me pay the bill with my bonus. It wasn't until we had eaten our way through the entire city of A that, at my strong insistence, he personally cooked a lavish meal to celebrate. Watching his busy figure in the kitchen, wearing an apron, I couldn't resist teasing him, "Expert Gu, I never expected you could actually cook." He turned around, raising an eyebrow. "What, fallen for me?" My big mouth immediately blurted out uncontrollably, "A little." The air instantly fell silent. Guyabai was clearly taken aback, the tips of his ears visibly turning red. He pretended to be calm, placing the bowl of noodles in front of me, and snorted, "Eat your noodles and talk less nonsense." But I clearly saw the corners of his mouth turn up wildly as he turned around. 10. My security clearance is already at the highest level, but some foreign forces are still making desperate moves. On the way to a secret research institute, our convoy was ambushed in a carefully planned attack. In the chaos, I was pulled out of the car by a force, felt a sharp pain in the back of my neck, and lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I was lying in the bumpy cargo compartment of a large truck, my hands and feet bound, and before me was pitch-black darkness. Apart from the jolting sound of the vehicle moving, there was no other noise. The compartment was airtight, and I gradually began to feel a bit dizzy. My heart sank to the bottom. At that moment, a faint electric buzzing sound reached my ears. It was the miniature communicator I always wore in my ear. "Still working. This is the latest research achievement from the Institute. It is not only difficult to detect with the naked eye but can also evade various detection devices." Guyabai's anxious voice came through. "Anrin, can you hear me? Report your status." My mouth was sealed with tape, and I could only make muffled MMPH sounds. Guyabai immediately understood and quickly instructed, "Listen, try to sense your surroundings, the direction the vehicle is moving, any noises, smells, any detail at all." I tried to focus my mind, but the information I obtained was limited. Suddenly, Guyabai remembered my ability and asked that crucial question, "Anrin, tell me, what is the fastest and most effective way for you to escape right now?" My truth system was forcibly activated. Even though my mouth was sealed, my throat involuntarily produced muffled syllables. "Car, fuel tank, unlocked, use fire, forced to stop." Guyabai immediately ordered from the other end, "The target vehicle's fuel tank cap is unlocked. Find an opportunity to cause a fire and force it to stop." Outside, there was a series of urgent pursuit and screeching brakes. Immediately after, the truck I was in was violently forced to a stop, and the massive momentum sent me crashing into the side of the cargo compartment. My head instantly started buzzing. The sound of gunfire and fighting outside was brief but intense. Before long, the carriage door was abruptly pulled open, and fresh air rushed in. I saw Guyabai's handsome face filled with unprecedented panic. He pulled me tightly into his arms holding me in a death grip. "You scared me to death. Are you okay?" His voice carried a barely noticeable tremor. I was still shaken, but my mouth reacted honestly first. "It was quite scary, but you're holding me too tight. My ribs hurt a little." Guyabai, he laughed angrily, loosening his grip a bit and roughly ruffling my hair. "You ungrateful thing." 11. After this incident, my security measures were upgraded to an extreme level, almost making me a national treasure like a giant panda. Guyabai was practically glued to my side, almost to the point of following me into the bathroom. One evening, He lingered in my dorm room to watch a movie, and the atmosphere was just right. He suddenly leaned in, his eyes shining brightly, and whispered, "Xia Enren, isn't being with me so much better than being that stifled rich heiress?" That question was way too direct. Without hesitation, I blurted out, "Of course it's great, I don't have to pretend, and I get to look at your handsome face every day." Realizing what I had just said, I immediately covered my mouth. Guyabai chuckled softly, looking as smug as a cat that got the cream. "Oh, so you like my face?" My face flushed bright red. I wanted to deny it, but the system wouldn't let me lie. All I could manage was, "So what if I do?" He pushed his luck and kissed me. The kiss was both gentle and domineering. When it ended, he pressed his forehead against mine, breathing slightly rapidly, and asked in a hoarse voice, "What about me? Do you like it?" "I like it." "Do you love me?" "I do. I've given up on myself." Guyabai held me contentedly, his chin rubbing against the top of my head. "That's more like it. Since you're being so honest, I'll reluctantly make a report and submit our marriage application." I was so angry that I hit him, but he held me even tighter. "Fine, since he's so handsome." 11. In a corner unknown to me, the Xia family had completely fallen into ruin, with no way out. Mr. and Mrs. Xia somehow found out about me and actually showed up at my workplace, tearfully begging me to come home. Guyabai immediately stepped in front of me. "Excuse me, but are you mistaken? We only have Comrade Xia Enren here, not some Xia family heiress. Security, please escort these two unrelated individuals away. Don't block the path for important national vehicles." I watched their retreating figures, filled with regret and shame, but felt nothing inside. I anonymously donated a portion of my bonus to the orphanage where I grew up, improving the children's living and learning conditions. That place is truly my home in the real sense. Now, I continue to shine in my special position. Today, I help the space agency solve engine problems. Tomorrow, I assist the medical field in overcoming difficult diseases. Guyabai is still my full-time nanny and boyfriend. His daily routine involves helping me coordinate work, fending off various troubles, and asking some inexplicable questions. "Enren, am I handsome?" "Handsome. Which part of me do you like the most?" "Abs." "What do you want to eat tonight?" "You."